Everybody. Today is November 7th, so we will be looking at MTG stocks November 6th. And on the top here, we have Abrupt Decay, but we've already kind of looked at this card before. So I'm going to kind of, because I usually do the top one every day, but we're going to skip this since we just saw it recently. So let's go ahead and get into the second highest, which was Hardened Scales here. I've had this in one of my decks already, and I actually really like this card. It's a 1 green, or just, I guess, mono green enchantment. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be placed on a creature you control, that many +1/+1 counters are placed on it instead. That many +1. So basically, if you have a creature that comes out with a +1/+1 counter, it'll get 2. You don't have to pay anything, it just does it. I think it's really great for, I have a sort of janky mass deck that this works well with, because when you amass, even if you amass 1 with Hardened Scales, and now amass 2. Other things in my deck get +1/+1 counters anyways, and so it's a pretty nice card, especially if you can kind of synergize around it. I mean, just being 1 mana is great. I think it has a lot of value. I can see why these cards going up. It's kind of sad because I still don't like cards like this going up, because it makes it a lot harder for people to get them. But because what can you do? Maybe they'll reprint it. Maybe it'll even be in the Commander Green spellbook. Probably not. All right, let's go ahead and look at the second one for today. We have Mutavault. This is an interesting land. I don't usually care about lands, but I have put this in my Lord Windgrace deck, but I took it out because the colorless wasn't helping me enough. But what it does is, it is a tap, add 1 colorless to your mana pool, or you can pay 1 and it becomes a 2/2 creature with all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land. This card's actually really nice because it synergizes with Tribal really well. Or if you just have other cards that need specific kinds of cards, like wizards or something like that, then it can just become that. And for 1 mana, it's great too. It also is can kind of be a surprise if your opponent forgets, but that's not really, I guess, the goal of it. But it's just, if you need a blocker, then it's not a bad blocker either. If they just have like a 1/1 or something, or if you're at the point where blocking it would, if they have a 10/10 coming at you and you just spend 1 mana to block it, it's not a bad trade either. But I think the main point of this card is getting all those creature types and it just being so versatile. So I like it a lot. But it's way too expensive for what it is. Oh, too expensive, sadly. It's been, I think, last time, because it's right now, it's $12, but I feel like the last time I saw it was like $8, and so it's slowly rising. Let's see here. Thing in the Ice. This is a interesting card. I remember back when this was about $5. But now, let's go ahead and look at this real quick. I think, oh yeah, this was on the weekly spikes here. This is now almost $20. And like I said before, that these prices aren't quite correct. And it's probably about 10 or 20% less than what you're actually seeing here, depending on where you find it. But I mean, or it could just be at the point where it keeps going up and now it's more. But regardless, Thing in the Ice is an interesting creature. It costs 1 colorless and 1 blue, and it's a 0/4 defender horror creature. When it enters the battlefield, it comes with 4 ice counters on it. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you remove an ice counter from it. If it has no more ice counters, you transform it. So it's a transforming monster. And it's kind of like a neat concept, because you have this huge creature that you can kind of see in the ice, and it's being pulled along by this boat. And then when it awakens, it becomes this huge thing that's going to destroy everything. Because who would have thought? Its name is Awoken Horror. Is a Kraken Horror, and it's a 7/8. When the creature transforms into Awoken Horror, return all non-horror creatures to their owner's hand. So I know, I like this card because I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's a defender card. I could put this maybe to kind of stall out games or something if I need to in a blue deck. But I didn't realize how good it was. But when I'm looking at it now, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good, because you can get a lot of cantrips and make those the sleep counters go away pretty quickly. But basically, you have a 2 mana cost creature that you can probably awaken by turn 3 in whatever format you're in. And at that point in time, it's now a 7/8 that has board wiped. And I'm assuming, since it transformed, it doesn't technically have haste, but it shouldn't have summoning sickness anymore. So it's pretty spooky. and this could also be really good just getting out late game and then returning everything, and then so yeah, I mean it's a very versatile card in that sense where you can board wipe later or earlier in the game. Well, board wipe not quite, but board return. Sure, we'll go for board return. But yeah, I mean I like the art too. It's really neat to have that, like, you know, you're going from the ice and it wakes up. I mean, kind of the idea, but neat concept. Too expensive for anybody to want to buy now. Well, people will buy it, but it's too expensive. All right, and this one, I don't know what this does. I just saw it. I'm like, oh, old art. I like it. So this is Ring of Maruf, and it cost 5 colorless. It's a mono artifact or just artifact. So you can pay 5 instead of drawing a card from the top of your library. Select one of your cards from outside the game. So in this case, I've talked about this a little bit before, but that basically means like from your sideboard, or in EDH is actually not even really possible to use because there isn't a sideboard. But depending on your play group, it could just be anything. You could just have like, in some people's EDH groups are like, whatever, I don't care, and then you just pull whatever card from anywhere. But then anyways, this card can be any card you have that you're not using in your deck, or that for some reason has left the game. Okay, so for some reason has left the game, it means pretty much exile. Ring of Maruf is removed from the game entirely after use. Gotta love those old cards. But yeah, so basically you can either take something from either exile or just doesn't exist in your deck at all. But I guess in today's age, I don't know why this card would really be that good, because, I mean, wait, instead of drawing a card, okay, so this is kind of weird. I was reading this again. It says, instead of drawing a card from the top of your library, select one of your cards from outside the game. So it just says replacement effect for drawing. But yeah, kind of interesting. I mean, there's better cards now. Like there's I think it's Con or Con. Yeah, I think Con does basically the same thing but better and cheaper. But I like seeing these old cards. Let's see here, and then for our commander card of the night, we're gonna look at Nixilis Unshackled. It is 4 colorless and 2 black. He is a legendary creature demon, and he's a 4/4 flying trample. Whenever an opponent searches his or her library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Nixilis Unshackled. So his second effect here, or third effect if you count those, is kind of whatever. I mean, you can make people sacrifice a bunch of creatures and he gets a bunch of +1/+1 counters, and that's a alternate way to go. What I'd love to do with this card, which I think is very hard to do in mono black, if this card could have been a commander in Gruul, or not Gruul. Gruul doesn't work anyways. Golgari, geez, Golgari. This would have been really nice because green has a lot of ways for people to green has a lot of ways for other people to tutor their decks, and so that'd have been nice. I was always thought this would be a cool idea if black allowed a lot more other people tutoring. And actually, the next card I'm going to show is one of those kind of cards, but black doesn't have quite enough of these. So we have, or at least not that I know of. I may look into this later. But anyways, Scheming Symmetry. It is a costs 1 black, and it's a sorcery. And this is from M20, so you may know what this card is, anyways. But it has choose 2 target players. Each of them searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts that card on top. I like this card a lot. So basically, generally, you would want to use this on yourself, and then you'd have to use it on an opponent or something. But in the Nixilis deck, you can actually make 2 people do it, and then they have to sacrifice. Each have to sacrifice a creature, and then each lose 10 life, which is a ton of damage to kind of do that. If there's a way to like copy the spell or do other things, you can probably really hurt some people pretty quick. Yeah, I always like this card. I'm surprised that it's not worth like a ton. I think it is speculated to be worth quite a bit, but I guess helping your opponent out that much can be bad. The one thing I do have to say about it, though, is that if you have a mill deck, then it kind of just can nullify your opponent's pick, because either one, they're just going to basically take their worst card and put on top of their deck, or they're going to put their best card and you're going to mill it off. So I think for mill decks, this can actually be pretty powerful. And then for finishing the night off, we are going to look at some random cards as usual. So our first random card is Merfolk Sky Scout. It is a 2 colorless, 2 blue Merfolk Scout, who would have thought. It has flying, and whenever it attacks or blocks, untap target permanent. So, I mean, nothing amazing. I may have actually thought about putting this in my Merfolk deck because this actually kind of synergizes with my commander. It's nothing, like I said, it's not great, but if you're searching for those Merfolks, you might need it. But I mean, it's not bad. I think it's not terrible, I should say. I think if you got this in a draft, you'd be like, okay, it's a 4-mana 2/3 flying, and then the untapped target permanent can kind of help you with sort of mana ramp. I mean, kinda, but it's okay. I wouldn't mind having something like that in a draft. I'm not sure I'd use it, but. And then let's see, random card number 2. Okay, Ancestral Vision. This one's a fun card. So it's a sorcery, and it's counted as a blue card, so it's not colorless because it has. As you can see up here, it has no mana cost actually, but it has to spend 4. So rather than play this card from your hand, you may pay 1 blue and remove it from the game with 4 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last one is removed, play it without paying its mana cost. So basically, you pay 1 mana, and then you can use this 4 turns later, more or less. And then its ability is target player draws 3 cards. If you're not really aware what this is, then it's basically, I can't remember the name of it, but it's one of the Power 9 in Magic. And that card was a cost 1 blue, target player draws 3 cards. There was no suspend or anything. It was just a very, very powerful card because 1 mana for 3 cards is crazy. So it's kind of like, and this was originally from Time Spiral, see? And Time Spiral was neat because it basically tried to take cards from the past and put some sort of spin on them. The whole block was actually really neat. There's either Planar Chaos. I think it's Planar Chaos because there's 2. There's like Planar Chaos and there's another one that has Planar in its name, but I think it's Planar Chaos. Could be wrong. But that idea was basically it took cards that were in the past and then actually changed their colors because the idea was that the planes were in disarray and then people's attributes would change. And so like they had, for instance, there is Groundbreaker. And Groundbreaker is a cost 3 forest, which is really hard to get out, but it has trample haste, and then you sacrifice it at the end of your turn, and it's a 6/1 creature. So I mean, like it's a 3 mana 6/1 trample haste, which is pretty nice. You could get a lot of damage in pretty quick. But that was a play off of a red creature, which I can't remember the name of, but it was just basically triple red, 6/1 trample haste, and so it was just kind of like a neat. Both of these were neat sets, Time Spiral and I still saying Planar Chaos. But anyways, I think that's going to be it for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.